Hey there YouTube, this is T Walker aka Tanner. I'm going to start another type or whatever of my videos. They're going to be called the My Thoughts videos, where I share with you my thoughts. These videos are not going to be most of the time about my system, so fret not. Although I am trying to make those system videos like more interesting for you guys, because I know that no one ever watches them except for like 4 or 5 people who leave excellent comments, and you guys are saints. So I am going to try to make those more interesting. In fact, the last one I made was interesting, I swear. If you watch it, you'll have fun. I promise. Okay, anyway, so let's get into it. This is a video response to LeftoverJedi again. You know what? If I have someone who asks me a question, that's awesome. That means people are actually watching my video. So if you have a question for me, I will be more than happy to respond to it. Probably happier than you would expect to respond to it. So let's jump right into it. He asked, "What about?" I can't remember what prompted this, but yeah, he's asking about a setting based on combat, and he gave the example of a war setting. Now, that's I thought that was cool, so I thought about it, and my conclusion is, war settings are not based on combat, for the most part. I mean, personally, if I ever ran a setting where there was a war, that setting would not be based on combat or fighting, because war, realistically, is not really based on fighting. And now you're like, wait, what? No, that's stupid. Let me explain myself. War is about killing. Killing doesn't necessarily involve fighting. War is about killing the other person while trying to save your own people. That's what war is. You want to preserve as many of your combatants as possible while killing the other ones. Now, let's take a look at this from a few different angles you could run it on. Let's start from the top and work our way down. Say you're playing this game. You're this war setting, right? So you've got these two. I'm guessing there's two opposing sides, and they're butting heads. And your player characters are playing as the generals. Now, let me tell you something. If they are the generals, there's going to be very little, if any, fighting, if you run it what I would call semi-realistically. Because what does a general do? He's a strategist. Most of your game is going to be about acquiring information about the enemy. Now, you yourself are probably not going to go on these missions to acquire information, because you are the strategist. That is your job. You cannot risk yourself on these dangerous missions to collect information. No, you need to know your role. And your role is to plan. And your role is to save the lives of the countless number that you command. And in order to fulfill that role, you need information on the enemy. And so that's what the game's going to be about. It's going to be about collecting information about the enemy. And then once you have that information, once you've sent your people out to grab that information, and they've brought it back to you, the next part of the game is going to be about planning. You need to plan out with this information you have. If you know that they're going to be at this point on this day, you're going to need to do something about it. You're going to need to utilize that. You're going to need to set a trap. You're going to need to have your army, if you know they're going to be marching through this pass and it's a shaky pass, you're going to need to have your army, trap that pass. Now, there's no combat in there, because you don't want your army to fight the other army. Because if they do, you'll have casualties. You don't want casualties. As a general, it's your job to protect the lives of your soldiers. That is your job. That is your number one job. Protect the lives of your soldiers while still killing the other people. Alright? So, you're going to gather information, and then you're going to plan. And you're going to sit there, and if this is anything near realistic, you're going to sit there for hours and look at a map, and you're going to have little pieces on the map where you think that where your information that you've gathered has told you that the enemies might be, and you're gonna be like, okay, well, if we move 20 people here, well, then we're leaving this unit defenseless. It's gonna be planning, and it's gonna be planning after planning after planning, and finally, after hours of planning and gathering information and sending troops to sack their supply lines and destroy their crops and hunt down their women and children in order to divert some of their armed forces over to these other places so they have a less of an armed force in this place, then the actual battle is going to take place. At the climax of this entire game, this one battle is going to take place. And after, the outcome of that battle, you're just going to start all over again. You're going to plan for the next one. And you're going to plan, and you're going to plan, and you're going to plan. Because that's what you do as a general. Now, maybe you're saying, okay, I'm not going to have them be generals. They're going to be the special forces of this army. They're going to be the inherently trained or inherently amazing badass. That's what they're going to be. Well, guess what? They're still not going to be fighting that much. And if they are, they're going to be doing some fighting that's not really fighting. It's going to be massacring, is what they're going to do. If you play it as again, this is my opinion, but if you play it in what my opinion would be semi-realistically, because if you are trained with special groups, what you are trained in is stealth and being discreet. Realistically, you're not going to be fighting off, 1,000 enemies every day. I don't know, that sounds stupid to me. But if it sounds cool to you, that's awesome, play that. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sneaking in a lot of the time and poisoning their wells. And you're going to be attacking their supply lines when they're weak and defenseless. And you're going to be making sure that they have to divert some of their troops to these other people, especially their women and children, because you're going to attack them, and they know it. You're going to be attacking defenseless people. You're going to be capturing enemies and then torturing them for information, because what does your general want? He wants information about the enemy army, and it's your job to get it for him. So you're going to be capturing people. You're going to be torturing people. Now, you could throw a couple of fights in there. Oh, you gotta go through the guards to do that. But that's not your goal. Your goal is to go in there and detect it. You don't want to fight. Fighting sucks. You get hurt. You die. You don't want to die. You need to live so you can tell that information you just got to your general. So you're not going to want to fight. And even if you do fight, it's going to be rather sporadic because, like I said, your job is to gather information. Your job is to kill, not to fight. Your job is to poison. Your job is to sneak. Your job is to kill them in their sleep. Why? Because that is tactically the most sound thing you can do. Is kill them when they can't fight back. You're going to be salting their crops. You're going to be burning their houses. These are what a smart tactician would have his group of badasses, trained badasses do. Is hit them where it hurts. And where it hurts is where it is undefended. Now, let's say you don't want them to play the tactical badasses. Let's say you want them to play the peons, the lowest of the low. The game no longer becomes about gathering information. The game becomes a game about following orders. But even the peon, the fight is going to be few and far between. He's not going to be fighting every few seconds, no. That one battle is going to be in advance, and he's going to know it's coming. And so, in order to run that game, as I said, in my opinion, realistically, the battle is going to be off in the distance. And yes, it's going to be coming closer and closer and closer again. And you as a DM are really going to want to emphasize this dread, because war is not a fun thing. It is grotesque. It is blood-curdling. The carnage that emits from it is just horrendous. And you're going to really want to have them feel that effect. But more than that, where the action and conflict is going to take place, yes, some of it's going to take place in the actual fight. But most of it's going to take place in the camp. Now let me explain this. If you have a bunch of thousands and thousands of people all huddled in to this little camp, there's going to be conflict. And that's your job as the GM, to make this camp conflict feel real, because that's going to make the war situation feel real. So if you're playing a lowest of low, you're not going to be fighting most of the time, or you're not going to. Even if you are fighting, let's go for a situation, something real. The troop, the next to you that's camped next to you has just stolen your troops' rations. Now you can't go over there and kill them. They're actually on your side, but they are douchebags. They are horrible people, and you need your ration back. So you have to find a way to get it back without engaging in much confrontation, because the superiors are going to hack down on that confrontation, and you're going to be punished, and you don't want to be punished. Alright? So that's going to be something. Also, part of the whole conflict is going to be getting your commander, the person who's going to lead your specific troop, to trust you. Because this is the man that has your life on the line. And so a whole bunch of this campaign is going to be spent building this mutual trust between these two people, the commander and the subordinate. Because if they do not trust each other, the battle's going to go haywire. They're going to break rank, they're not going to follow orders, he's not going to deliver good orders because he doesn't really even like you nor care about your life. Now that is going to be a huge part of this campaign, is getting your superiors to care about your life, to get them to want to protect your life through rational decisions. Part of the campaign might be getting your sergeant replaced with another one who you know is more level-headed and less rash and won't get you killed. Because that's what you don't want to do, is die. Dying is not going to be fun. Alright? Now, even so you fight, right? And you play even, a bunch of sessions about this battle and this grotesque, gruesome thing, and your friends are dying next to you, and all these people that you've just spent this entire campaign, dealing with, really engaging with, are just dying left and right, getting slaughtered. Arrows are going into their chest, and they're just dropping like flies, and you have to keep rank, and you have to charge forward. And even if you win, the aftermath, now that's what you're going to want to roleplay. That's what's going to make a good war game, is the aftermath. That aftermath, that session, or 3 or 4 of you digging through the bodies, trying to find your best friend. Maybe you had a friend, somebody you were really close to, and he said, look, if I die, I want you to take my sword, and I want you to give it to my son. Well, great. Now the game becomes about finding his body and the thousands and thousands that just died in this battle. Because you promised, right? And that's going to make something intense. And that's going to make something deep. And that's going to make something powerful, right? Now, let's look at those 3 things. I started, kind of a really high ranking, a medium ranking, and then, lowest of the low. None of those were about fighting. Oh, that's my phone. All of those were about killing. Except for the last one. The last one, the peon. Yeah, it's going to be about killing that one part, but the whole expanse of it, the real expanse of it, is going to be in the camp, and the problems that come up in the camp. The fighting is going to be these few and far between battles. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this Leftover Jedi. This has been my thoughts on a war setting, and I'm signing off.